There are two industries which are incredibly dangerous at the moment. One is reality TV, which I know about, and the other is professional politics, which I also know about. And in both career paths, in both professions, there are serious health dangers, with one extreme being suicide and the other extreme being depression, both particularly horrible. And why? Because both of these are jobs that put huge pressure on the individual, huge expectations, that there is no real end to those pressures. There is no point at which they go away. And in both cases, I think you cannot possibly imagine how you lose agency. In the case of modern politics, the majority of politicians in the House of Commons have become voice pieces for some sort of propaganda machine. Whether that's Number 10, whether that's the party system, very few of them are actually in charge of what they are able to say. Very few of them have the time to work through their briefs. So you have these ridiculous situations like Suella Braverman flicking through the pages of her file, which clearly she has never seen before in any detail, in a select committee. It's embarrassing, and the weight that is put on her shoulders is something she cannot sustain. She's not capable of dealing with that, is anybody. Now, of course, I ridicule her for her laziness, but that again is just one extreme. I don't for 1 minute doubt that she has far too much to do. But it's a matter of prioritizing what she does. Now, some people, some politicians, have managed to find some sort of magic formula of delegation, some magic formula where they can actually survive and read what they need to read in order to get on. Some can. Most cannot. Rory Stewart is releasing a book tomorrow, and I believe he's going to deal with some of these issues. And he says things like, this is a country of 70 million people and politicians don't really know what's going on. And we pretend to the public that we do. Well, I think maybe it's time to reverse that process and to recognize that politicians are simply the servants of the people. We go back to Ukraine and to President Zelensky's television show, A Servant of the People. And actually, in so many ways, he is successful because he is realizing in stark reality the ethos of that program. He is a servant of the people. Rory Stewart says that he ended up despising himself. I would find myself sort of creepily trying to sit next to David Cameron at lunch, and I'd send these texts saying, congratulations on your latest policy that I didn't really believe in. And so I began to feel that I was being made in my early 40s into some kind of child. What he's describing is the loss of agency. It's the same thing that I describe when I'm talking about reality TV. It's exactly the same thing. A loss of agency. And when we lose agency, particularly when we are older, we find it extraordinarily stressful. I think, again, when you're looking at a loss of agency, you have to look at the way we care for people in hospitals. And again, the frustration is about the loss of agency. That doctors who clearly don't have the time to take that level of control behave as if they know what is right. And the patient, who quite often does know what is right, who quite often has had the time to research what is happening to her or to him, the patient is left out in the cold is treated like the amateur. Well, of course they're an amateur, but they've done the reading. And the doctors simply don't have time. And it's this thing about juggling time and resources and demand. And we need to rethink these various jobs. Barristers going into court, so many of them just glance at the case and you wonder why their clients get sent down or get into more serious trouble, and then you look back and you think, well, but actually they're innocent. And they're proven to be innocent. Why? Because people don't have the time to do the work. And because people are so keen to establish their authority. Authority seems today to become more important than information and education. Information and learning. These are the two things which are important. And recognizing that actually without continuing to learn, without continuing to read, without continuing to study, we don't know anything. If I relied on the information that I got 20 or 30 years ago, I would not be able to function in this world. I can only function, and even then I barely function, I can only function because I've been reading stuff that has been written recently. I'm trying all the time to be up to date. Technology is racing ahead, and we are in a panting race to catch up. So this idea that we need to be in charge, this idea that we need to be in control, it's time to admit that we are not in control. It's time to admit that maybe others have the answers, that we are there to serve, we are there to respond, and we are there to do what we can, not to impose our authority on things.